I'm gonna give you the quickest hack that you can use to drastically increase your power and your strength. And we're gonna start right now. This is the destination. It's gonna be a major football game, a state championship for a specific sport, maybe even an international competition like world championships, Pan Am Games, or the Olympics. The destination is the main focus for what we're training towards. And then what we need to look at is, do we need to cut volume? Do we need to cut specific exercises? Do we need to decrease intensity? Do we need to add specific exercises? All of those things need to be factored in when we're really trying to build towards that specific destination, and we have to work back from that date. We need to know how we can achieve that elite level realization. So what exactly is periodization and why do we need it? If we can just think about structure, if we can structure our time management, that makes us a lot less stressful, right? Because it enables us to have a little bit more of a dynamic ability to manage stress. Okay, so that's just in our normal life. So if we can think about training that way, and we can actually develop specific phases and specific periods of training, now as coaches or as self-taught athletes, we can start to see how we respond or how our athletes respond to different types of stimuli. And those responses might be broken down into emotional responses, physical responses, even down into how someone might be responding to things cognitively, what's happening when they're sleeping. So if we can take note of all these different factors, that enables us to peak our athletes a lot better. It all comes back to better prediction of performance. And if we can understand specific things like, what are the exercises that we want to select? What are the reps and sets that we need to use? What are the different strength characteristics that we need to train for specific types of sports? And then all of that stuff gets coupled together when we're discussing periodization. When we understand this, we then know that we can implement this key hack to realization of your overarching strength. So the realization phase is going to be week 18, week 19, week 20, depending upon the athlete. Typically, it will last about 5 to 15 days. Okay, so if we look at the end of the summit phase, could be week 17 or week 18. Okay, realization phase will be those 2 to 3 weeks following. Now, some people might benefit from having a longer realization phase. I'll use an example of Sam Mattis. Okay, when we were in Tokyo at the Olympics, we actually had a 20-day realization phase for him. That's very uncommon because most athletes will have full recovery with about 10 to 15 days. Now, that takes us into those specific attributes. We're coming off the summit phase where we've been lifting really heavy. We have very specific variations that will transfer very well to our specific sport. Okay, now the attributes of the realization phase. We're gonna focus on high levels of recovery. So that means we might be removing some types of accessories. Okay, one of the quickest things that you can do is that if you have exercises laid out, and we're gonna go into specific exercise selection with reps and sets, one thing you can do is just remove all of those accessories to elicit a faster recovery period. Okay, we wanna focus on simple movements. If we've developed over time, and we've done really, really good lifting with very specific variations, if we make those exercises during the realization period easier, now that improves our rate of recovery even further. Okay, so we build this really big strength specific to that sport, and then we want to provoke a very quick response or adaptation period so that the athlete feels fully recovered, very, very fresh. Okay, so now you want to use a simpler movement. We want to prime the neural drive. Okay, so this might mean that some athletes will respond really well to doing like 3 singles, moderately heavy or even pretty heavy if we're doing something like a technical coordination movement or an absolute strength movement, but then again, we back off with those accessories. Some athletes don't respond well to lifting heavy during the realization phase, so it really comes down to understanding those specific athletes based off that athlete reactive analysis. Now, adaptations. We want full skill development. This is a big factor. Full skill development, improving recovery for impulse expression. That creates a large amount of power output, okay? Recovery for strength as well. We want to feel really strong. I always like to say, we want to feel as an athlete like we could rip the steering wheel out of our steering column in the car. I know that sounds weird, but if you just sit there and you're feeling super, super fresh and fully recovered, that's a really quick hack that leads to having a large amount of power output. Okay, the sport identification. If we're looking at that sport ID chart, okay, and we understand the time of the year for the specific sport we're discussing, we're gonna be peaking for playoffs, okay, or we're gonna have some type of championship that we're building towards, a national championship, a state championship, or even talking about a world championship or the Olympics. This is the time frame that is of the utmost priority. Okay, so if we're building towards a national championship here, and then that national championship gets us to a world championship, this is really of the utmost priority, and then this is going to be of the utmost priority. And so you've got to be dynamic with your periodization so that you can peak for both of those events. Okay, so specifics during the realization phase. Okay, so we're coming off the summit phase again. This is going to be week 18, week 19, week 20 potentially, and then looking at how can we peak as well as possible. Okay, those specific things. So a workout split. Leg power day, that's gonna be day one. That's gonna be a max of 2 to 3 movements. Okay, so on leg power day, we're gonna do with those specific exercises, let's say a power snatch or a power clean. Let's say on absolute strength movements, let's say a back squat, we do 2 sets of 4 fast, okay, unbroken. Okay, and then if we want to do any accessories, we might do 1 accessory or 1 set of an accessory, but typically we will even cut that out. Okay, upper body power day, 3 movements max. So that might look like a behind the neck jerk, 3 singles. Absolute strength might be, pad bench, 3 sets of 5, and then maybe 1 accessory, band pull apart, something very easy. If we looked at athlete day, we're gonna have very targeted plyometrics. So that's gonna be hurdle hop. Maybe we do 3 sets of 3 hurdle hops. Maybe we do a high box jump with a quick repeat, 3 sets of 3. Or stair jumps, stair jumps are very easy on the body and it still elicits a very explosive response. Impulse day, we're gonna do 1 to 3 movements. So that might be technical coordination, so a 1 box power clean, a 2 box power clean, something simple. Absolute strength here might be single leg squat, 2 sets of 3 on each leg, unbroken, and then that's it. Hypertrophy day, we're not doing. We're cutting that out completely because we want this full response. We want this deload to be effective, okay? So these are gonna be those reps and sets over here, and this is how everything really plays out during the realization phase. From a metacognitive perspective, the whole focus is on performance. The whole focus is on the actual championship that we're trying to win, that we're trying to become a champion from. Okay, so that again might be a league match, it might be a county match, it might be a state championship, it might be the NCAA championship. I can give you a recent example with Haley Reichert when we were at the World Championships in December in 2022 in Bogota, where she got 3rd in the clean and jerk. The main focus for those last 5 to 7 days of training were easy snatches, easy clean and jerks, okay? We kept it simple. If we're in a specific sport, let's say we're training someone like a canoeer, like Ian Ross at the World Championships, we're gonna do very specific pulls to that canoe stroke, and we might only do 3 to 4 sets, and then we're cutting it. Okay, so that's what we need to focus on when we're training in the realization period, okay? This is the point that we realize we're standing on top of that mountain and we're going to achieve that championship level. And I like to think through the entire journey. We started with the exposure phase. We're gonna climb that mountain. Then we went through the comprehension phase where it's like, all right, we can do this. There's a lot of work ahead of us. The ascension phase, we started to get to the top of the mountain, but we weren't there yet. The summit phase, that's when you get to the top of the mountain. You're like, I'm here. The realization phase is that moment of euphoria where you're just looking around like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. Now I can take true form and achieve all of my dreams. So bask in the months of hard work. You've focused on the exposure phase. You've gone into the comprehension phase. You've built up during the ascension phase. You've crushed weights during the summit phase. And now you're here at the realization phase where everything starts to pay off big time. But also recognize that training for sports performance is long and arduous. And as soon as we end this phase, it's time to start that journey all over again so you can keep building and building to becoming that champion over years and years of work. And that's why we want to help as many athletes as possible and as many coaches as possible so that people can feel the confidence building. They can feel the achievement of being in the Olympic Stadium, of going to the World Championships, of winning world level medals, of even just winning a county title or winning a state championship, accomplishing things, being part of a journey, being part of a story that leads to this tremendous triumph. That's what sports performance is all about, and that's exactly why we created the Garage Strength Program Design. This is parabolic periodization for sports, and you'll learn how to understand programming, sport identification, strength characteristics, exercise selection, reps and sets from the start of the journey at the exposure phase all the way into comprehension phase until the very end at the realization phase. You can head over to garagestrength.com and you can pick up our 5-hour course where you can learn how to pull and plug specific things around program development. This specifically will help level up your programming skills so that you can develop champions. If you want to learn more about periodization, make sure you check out all the rest of our videos on programming inside of the parabolic periodization system specific for sports. Because remember, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.